Hey guys, let's talk about how I'm going to read an order and figure out how much med I'm going to give a patient. I'm going to do desired over have times quantity to do this math. It's the easiest in my opinion. If you like dimensional analysis, you get the same answer. It's just not my preferred method of doing math. So on the first problem, we have an order that says a healthcare provider orders heparin, 7,855 units sub Q, twice a day. We have available, so when I go to the Pyxis or the MedCart, I get out of the Pyxis heparin that is 10,000 units per 1 mil. So based on what I drew out of that Pyxis or that MedCart, how many mils will I administer if my patient is ordered heparin 7,855 units? The other thing that's important to know is it says right here, round the answer to the hundredths place. So we have to know what the hundredths place is. So to get this answer, I'm going to do 7,855 units over what I have available. And what I have available is 10,000 units. So how I have set up the problem right here is I have what I want, my desired, over what I have times my quantity. And there are 10,000 units per 1 mil. Okay, so if I was to write on this problem, this is my D, and y'all forgive me, it doesn't look that great. This is my have times my quantity. So per 1 mil. That's supposed to be a Q, not an O. Okay, it's not liking it. Okay, there's the Q. So I have a desired over my have times my quantity. So when I go to do the math on this, what do I get? So what does this equal? So we're going to put it in the calculator, and we're going to put 7,855 over 10,000 times 1. That gives me, let's do it. If you've not done it yet, let's put the calculator up here. And let's do 7,855 divided by 10,000 equals that times 1 still gives me that same answer. So my answer is 0.7855. Notice I have a leading zero. You always have a leading zero, just no trailing zeros. But there's too many decimal points here per my question. My question says round to the hundredths. So that's going to actually equal 0.79 because this 5 is going to round this up to 0.79. So I'm going to give my patient 0.79 mils. So 0.79. Notice there's not a 0 after the 7.9. The reason for that is we don't have trailing zeros, we only have leading zeros. Because if I forgot that leading zero, it looks like I'm giving my patient 79 mils if I don't see that decimal, which are really hard to see. So I don't want to overdose my patient on a med. So let's go on to the next question. A healthcare provider prescribes Mepridine, Demerol, 50 milligrams. So is that my desired? That's my desired. IV push every 6 hours PRN for pain. Available on hand, so when I go to the MedPyxis or the pharmacy or wherever, I have 75 milligrams per 1.3 mils. Okay, how many mils will I administer? So same principle. I put what I want on top of what I have, which is 75, times 1.3. So when I go to my calculator, I'm going to clear out my previous problem, and I'm going to do 50 divided by 75 times 1.3. So that gives me 0.866666, repeating all the way to 7. So that's going to equal 0.8666 repeating. But it says to round to the hundredths place. So what is that going to equal when I round it? 0.87 mils. So that's my answer. So I'm giving 0.87 mils to this patient with this order. Okay. Now, next problem. A healthcare provider prescribes heparin 4,390 units. So that's my desired sub-Q BID. We have available heparin 5,000, so that's what I have, per mil in 10 mils. Okay, so don't let this confuse you. I did this problem on purpose. It is still 5,000 units per mil, but in that vial, there's 10 mils. So this right here, this per mil, is my quantity. Okay, not the 10 mil. How many mils will you administer? Round to the hundredths place. Okay, so my desired is 4,390 mils, or units, sorry, not mils, over, and I haven't been putting units, but it's important that you do, because sometimes we're going to have to convert milligrams to grams or grams to milligrams, and you would need to know what your supply is. So I have available 5,000 units times 1 mil. And that gives me what? So let's do it in the calculator. 4,390 divided by 5,000 gives me 0.878 times 1. Gives me 0.878. Okay, so 0.878. But my answer is supposed to still be in the hundredths, so I still have too many decimal points. So what is my answer going to round to? So 0.878 is going to round to 0.88 milliliters. Okay, so that's my answer. Now, the next problem, I have penicillin G at 223,500 units, so that's my desired. Available is 500,000 units per 2.5 mils. So that's supposed to be a Q above there. How many mils are you going to administer? Round the answer to the tenths place if applicable. So I have 223,500 units over 500,000 units times 2.5 milliliters gives me, let's put it in the calculator again. I'm not good enough to do math in my head at those numbers. Divided by 500,000 times 2.5 gives me 1.1175. So 1.1175, but there's too many decimal points there to be hundredths place. So I'm going to do 1.12 because that 7 is going to round up milliliters. Okay, so that is my answer, 1.12 milliliters. Cool. Okay, well, let's go back. I did it again. There we go. So now, a patient with complaints of chest pain is ordered to receive cardizem 5 milligrams. So that's my desired because that's what was ordered. The vial contains, so when I go to the Pyxis and I look at it, it has 10 milligrams per 2 mils. How many mils are you going to get? So we have all the same units, so 5 milligrams over 10 milligrams times 2 mils. Okay, so 5 divided by 10 times 2. So I'm giving 1 milliliter. So that's my answer, 1 milliliter. Okay, the last one is linoxin or digoxin, 125 micrograms. Okay, so that's my desired. Now that does say micrograms under there. Is ordered IV push every morning. The vial contains 0.5 milligrams. Uh-oh, we don't have the same units here. So we have milligrams and we have micrograms per 2 mils. So that's my quantity. How many mils are you going to give? Well, before we can set up our problem of desired over half times quantity, I'm going to have to get my micrograms to milligrams. So how am I going to do that? Anybody know? I'm going to have to divide because there are 1,000 micrograms per 1 milligram. Okay. So how am I going to get this problem? So 125 divided by 1,000 gives me 0.125 milligrams. So I'm going to do 125 micrograms divided by 1,000 micrograms times 1 milligram equals 0.125 milligrams. Okay, so that's what we're going to use to set up our problem. So when I have a desire, my desire is 0.125 milligrams over what I have is 0.5 milligrams times 2 milliliters. Okay, and that's going to equal, let's do it in the calculator, 0.125 divided by 0.5 times 2. I'm going to give 0.5 milliliters. So my answer is 0.5 milliliters. So this is an example of how I set up my problems desired over half times quantity and how I read my questions to give me the amount I'm going to give my patient.